Tens of thousands of Texas families who received state money to send students to private schools are giving it back. The details today on the Texas Standard.
Texas Standard is a production of KUT Austin, KERA North Texas, Houston Public Media, and Texas Public Radio in San Antonio.
Texas cities are watching the back and forth between the Trump administration and the courts over a federal program critics say could put thousands of Texans at risk for re-entering homelessness. Cornyn and James Talarico have come out against imminent construction of Big Bend border barriers, where Ken Paxton stands. Plus, our conversation with soon-to-be Hall of Fame former NBA coach Mike D'Antoni. And no animals were injured when monkeys' brains washed up on Texas beaches. Those stories and a whole lot more today on the Texas Standard. From Flatonia to Floydada, Fort Worth to Frisco, it's the Texas Standard for Friday, August 14th. I'm Laura Rice. Governor Greg Abbott made education savings accounts a huge political priority in recent years. You may recall he brought lawmakers back in multiple special sessions in 2023 with his school voucher plan on the agenda. But legislators couldn't agree on the details until 2025's regular session. The $1 billion program was a big win for Abbott and one of his biggest financial backers, a Pennsylvania-based voucher supporter. Applications for the first round of vouchers opened up in February. About 275,000 applied, and over 100,000 were awarded state money to send kids to private schools, or a lesser amount to homeschool. Critics of the plan have worried about not just the impact on cash-strapped public schools, but also whether families would find the support they need on the private side. So now we're at the start of the school year, and it turns out thousands of families are apparently not finding what they need, and they're saying thanks but no thanks to the voucher money. Jessica Ma has been digging into this for the Dallas Morning News. Jessica, welcome to the Texas Standard.
Thank you for having me.
So how many families are giving up their school vouchers, and how does that compare to the total number of vouchers handed out?
Right. So numbers are still shifting. The comptroller's office, which oversees this school voucher program, is still determining awards and making its way through the wait list. The most recent number they gave was 118,000. So there are 118,000 students with active awards. Mm-hmm. That 118,000 includes 85,000 students who have confirmed their participation, and the rest haven't yet confirmed, but they still have time to. For us, what wasn't immediately clear was how many students returned their voucher. Mm-hmm. We at the Dallas Morning News put in a public records request to figure that question out. And we now know as of August 5th, there are at least 20,700 kids who returned their voucher, gave up the voucher. And so these students were awarded, they were invited to participate, but ultimately opted out of the program. So that can mean they formally declined their funds. It can mean they didn't select their school by the deadline, or the school didn't confirm their enrollment. Regardless, their voucher ultimately gets reassigned to someone on the wait list.
So you kind of took a stab at some of the whys. We don't know why these families who were rewarded money aren't using it, but what do we know about the demographics of the families who are returning this money?
Right. So what stuck out to me was, of the 20,700 kids who left the program, over 2/3 were students who were previously enrolled in public school. They self-reported that they were in public school during the 2024-25 school year. And this was interesting because proponents and politicians really promised that these school vouchers would help families leave public schools. And now critics sort of say this recent data casts doubt on that premise. I also noticed that the state awarded students based off this priority structure. Mm-hmm. So students with disabilities were first in line to get those funds. There were about 29,000 students in this tier who were deemed eligible, but our data shows that 7,000 of them opted out. So that's nearly a quarter of eligible applicants in the first tier.
Well, and I remember that specifically was an issue that critics raised because, as I understand it, private schools don't have the same obligations as public schools to serve students with special needs. Is that right?
Right. Qualifying for the voucher is one thing, but there are sort of challenges that can come along with using it. Private schools have limited seats. They can deny admission. If you have a child with special needs, a private school can say they can't accommodate the child's needs. And, there are sort of these specialized private schools geared towards serving students with special needs, but they're pretty far and few in between, and they tend to be concentrated in urban metro areas. Families of special needs children may realize a prospective private school may be too far, or maybe the tuition is too expensive, because sometimes at these very specialized schools, tuition can reach over $40,000, and the average amount awarded to students with special needs was about $16,000.
Well, you mentioned that the money being returned is now being doled out to those on the wait list. How big is that? Are there a lot of folks waiting?
Yes, there is a very, very long wait list. There are more than 100,000 students on there, and the comptroller is still making its way through that wait list. It actually started awarding students in the third tier. Earlier this year, they didn't even anticipate getting to this category of students. They expected funding to run out by the second tier, but with more students leaving the program, or maybe they are choosing the lesser homeschooling amount, which was about $2,000, reaching this third tier became possible.
And what does that third tier mean? Is that people with higher incomes, or what is that?
Right. So the first tier was for students with disabilities, and then the second tier was for students at or below 200% of the federal poverty line. So that's about $66,000 for a family of four. The third tier was for children whose household incomes were between 200% and 500% of the poverty line.
So what does this tell you, Jessica, about the future success of this program? Is this just growing pains, or are there other issues that this raises?
I think a program like this, a program of this magnitude, is really promising access. And it's promising access to the state's most vulnerable children, the low-income students, the students with special needs. And I think reporters are trying to evaluate whether that promise of access holds true in practice. For some families, it really does. Being able to afford private school is life-changing for them. And for others, it isn't. They're learning that they may qualify for a voucher, but that doesn't mean they're guaranteed access to private education. So there's a lot of big questions and a lot of things to keep an eye on in the coming months.
Jessica Ma covers education for the Dallas Morning News. Jessica, thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
The Trump administration wants to overhaul a federal homeless aid program in a move critics say could put more than 5,000 Texans at risk for re-entering homelessness. A federal judge has blocked the attempt by the Department of Housing and Urban Development to do so, but it's not the first time HUD has tried to overhaul the program, and it likely won't be the last. KERA's Emily DeMott has more on what's at stake for local communities as the government seeks to depart from a long-standing approach to homeless policy known as Housing First.
Tanisha Thomas isn't usually one to ask for help. But when she dialed the number of Texas's resource hotline 3.5 years ago, she was at rock bottom. No car, her phone disconnected, and nowhere else to go, Thomas and her 1-year-old son arrived at the Center for Transforming Lives shelter in Fort Worth.
And I didn't have any resources, and I couldn't go stay with family, so I really had no options.
The nonprofit helped Thomas and her son move into an apartment, where she received counseling, childcare, financial coaching, and 18 months of rental assistance to get back on her feet. Now, that program, and others like it across the country, are on the federal chopping block. For the past 9 months, the Trump administration has been trying to overhaul what's known as the Continuum of Care. It's a program that provides housing assistance and support services to families and individuals experiencing homelessness. The change would shift federal funding away from permanent housing assistance and towards services like emergency shelters, street outreach, and mental health treatment. A U.S. district judge in Rhode Island blocked HUD's latest attempt to restructure funding on procedural grounds. But the agency could still appeal the ruling, or try again next funding cycle. And if it's successful, local service providers say the changes could gut crucial programs that keep thousands of Texans out of homelessness annually.
It's so much better if families can move out of shelters, off the streets, and into homes.
Carol Klosick is the president and CEO of the Center for Transforming Lives. She says access to permanent housing grants stability to families experiencing homelessness, which makes it easier to work towards self-sufficiency.
And then they know where their children will go to school, which childcare makes sense, what kind of transportation needs they have, what kind of job they can get into, all the things that they need to really be able to start their life.
It's a framework known as Housing First, the idea that giving someone a place to live stabilizes them enough to get back on their feet. If the proposed changes take effect, Klosick says they could no longer provide housing for clients in need.
That movement towards stability in families is what we all want and need.
And not every community would be impacted equally by HUD's overhaul. Sarah Kahn is the president and CEO of Housing Forward, the backbone agency for the homelessness response system in Dallas and Collin counties. She says the changes would actually allow them to access more funding. That's because they already fund interventions like emergency shelter and street outreach at the local level, which are aligned with the White House's new federal funding priorities.
That is where Dallas and Collin counties really shines, and that's why we've been able to increase our portfolio of funding every year, and we believe that we will remain competitive to increase resources this year as well.
To be sure, most service providers aren't against these new interventions that HUD wants to fund, which are still critical parts of a community's holistic response to homelessness. Lauren King is the CEO of Partnership Home, which manages the homelessness response system in Tarrant and Parker counties.
The problem is it's not a either or, it's a both and, right? So yes, we need more money for treatment, and also those people have to have some place to live when they finish with treatment.
And without additional federal investment, King says communities are doing the best they can with the resources they have.
We'll serve people and we'll do a great job, but without significant investment, the community as a whole, I think, is not going to see this huge decrease.
As for Thomas, she's just graduated with honors from Tarrant County Community College with her associate's degree. It's a long way from where she was before.
We're just living. We're living. We're out of surviving, and we're living now.
In a few weeks, she'll start at the University of Oklahoma to earn a bachelor's in social work, with the goal of someday helping other women who are going through similar situations. I'm Emily DeMott in Dallas.
Well, still ahead on The Standard, we've got some sports this Friday. We'll have a look at the football season, but first, a Little League. And then I had the privilege of sitting down with a brand new inductee into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. If you've been an NBA fan for a while, you'll recognize his name. That's coming up.
Support for Texas Standard comes from UT San Antonio, providing education and research for communities across Texas, with a focus on student success and workforce development. The University of Ambition, ambition.utsa.edu.
It's the Texas Standard. I'm Laura Rice. Bernie's Little League team, called Texas West, is heading to Williamsport, Pennsylvania to compete for a national championship. TPR's Jack Morgan was on the diamond for their last practice before they flew out early this Friday morning.
It's Bernie's second trip to Williamsport in 3 years, but Coach Greg Yost says for these players, it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
It's a lot for 12-year-olds to manage, but they've done a great job with it, so I'm really proud of them.
Player Case Yarbrough says he's feeling good about their chances because they've done the work it takes to become champions.
I was just thinking, man, Southwest, Bernie, I've always wanted to be here. I've been working so hard. Me and this team, I'm honored, just so honored.
Bernie's team needs to win 4 games to become world champions. The Little League World Series begins Wednesday with Bernie playing its first game on Friday. You can watch the tournament on ESPN and ABC. I'm Jack Morgan in Bernie.
And you're listening to the Texas Standard. During his 16 seasons as an NBA head coach, Mike D'Antoni made a name for himself with his fast-paced, offense-oriented system. It's a system that saw him win NBA Coach of the Year twice, once in 2005 with the Phoenix Suns and later in 2017 as head coach of the Houston Rockets. That Rockets squad teamed D'Antoni's offensive mind with perhaps one of the league's most efficient scorers in James Harden, and saw Houston notch its best regular season record in franchise history. Now, D'Antoni is poised to join the 2026 Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame class, and we're thrilled to have him with us now to talk about it. Mike, thank you so much for joining us on the Texas Standard.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I understand the Hall of Fame festivities are about to kick off. How's it feel to be a part of this year's inductees?
Well, I think, as everybody says, it's an unbelievable honor, and you feel beholden to a lot of people. It's just so many people did things and extraordinary things to get me here, and I'm just eternally grateful, and should be a fun weekend because I'm going to see a lot of those people here helping me get into the Hall of Fame, and just going to celebrate with them.
Well, let's talk about your path to get to this point. I mean, for those not familiar with your background, where did your love for this game develop?
I grew up in a small coal mining town in southern West Virginia called Mullins, West Virginia. And my dad was a Hall of Fame West Virginia State high school basketball coach. And so it kind of ran in our blood, my two brothers and sister. From there to Marshall to the NBA, I played for a little bit. And then I went overseas. Had 21 years. I lived in Italy between Milan and Benetton Treviso, which is in right outside of Venice. So, I just had incredible luck in finding great teams and great managers and coaches, and later as a coach in Italy, and then in the United States, being, under the Colangelo wing with Phoenix for a while, where we really developed our philosophy that I just got incredibly lucky.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned you're known for your fast-paced offensive system, but it almost seems like it's a style that's become pretty popular all around the league. What's it like to watch the NBA now and see so many teams playing offense like those cutting-edge Phoenix Suns teams did in the 2000s?
Well, me personally, and I'm biased, so I don't know how much that's going to count, but I enjoy watching it. I think it's fun. I think the players today, they get better every year, and it's fun to watch their development. And they take what we're trying to do in Phoenix, because our stats in Phoenix, if you put it in today's game, we would be in the bottom half of the league. They've taken it to another height, and people like Steve Kerr, they keep innovating and putting stuff in, and Steph Curry and their players have taken it to another level.
Well, and then you made your way to Texas, coaching the Houston Rockets, where you won your second Coach of the Year award we mentioned. Tell us a bit about what it was about that team that came together so well for you.
Well, between Phoenix Suns and then Houston, analytics became a big part of the game. And Daryl Morey, who's probably the father of analytics, he was able to put statistics with instincts and the coaches the way they wanted to go, and that's one reason why the game has taken off to another level, because they could prove that that's the way. If you want to be efficient offensively, that's what you have to do. Is the way we were playing in Phoenix by the seat of our pants. So once I got to Houston with his analytic model and players that we had, and James Harden obviously leading that pack. It was easier to coach because we knew what we were doing was right, so we could push the envelope, and we got it to where we won 65 games with Chris Paul and James and then P.J. Tucker and Clint Capella. I go on and on. Ariza and Gordon. We just had some great players.
Well, we mentioned basketball took you all over, and of course you were in Texas and with the Rockets, and I understand you've made your home in Austin now. What makes it home to you?
Well, our son, who we have an only child, and Michael is 32 years old. He lives downtown in Austin and works there, and he's been there for about 8 years. And so it was after I retired from the NBA, and we're looking around and thinking, going back to Houston first or Phoenix or, whatever. But then we're going, what are we doing? And we're going to Austin. And we didn't know about Austin, but Austin has become a super home for us. And we love the city. Love the, University of Texas there, all the sports going on there. But it's been a match. It's been great for us.
You've been generous with your time. I guess I just want to ask, something about being part of a Hall of Fame, I'm sure makes you look back a little on your career. What's it feel like at this point, looking back?
Just, again, which I'll say 1,000 times, but it's just something that they pay you a lot of money to do something you love, which was fun. And then you're also doing it with people you love, all the coaches and players that I've had through the years, and you develop special bonds. Sports is a good way to develop that bond will never be broken. And it goes all the way through the NBA, all the cities I've been in, but also to Italy, which 21 years over there. There's just so many people that you come across, interesting people, different ways of looking at life, and just extremely gratified or, to have them in my life. It's been great.
Well, we'd love to catch up with you when you're back in Austin. Congratulations. Mike D'Antoni is a former NBA head coach and now part of the 2026 Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame class. Mike, thank you again.
Thank you. Take care.
I've been making a bad joke lately that video is once again killing the radio star. But here's the thing. We know you're watching video, and we here at The Standard are trying to provide it. You can keep up with us on Instagram for the short form stuff, and you can find longer interviews on Texas Standard's YouTube page. We're also posting our full podcast episodes on YouTube, so if that's where you like to listen, we've got you covered. The Texas News Roundup is next. Stay with us.
Support for Texas Standard comes from UT's Center for Professional Education, helping professionals launch a new career or advance in their current role with focused knowledge from professional certificate programs. Course lists at professionaled.utexas.edu.
It's not just about the brisket or the ribs or the sausage or even the sides. It's the culture and people who are passionate about it. Where there's smoke, there's Daniel Vaughn, Texas Monthly Barbecue Editor. Join us next Thursday on the Texas Standard.
Support for Where There's Smoke comes from HEB.
From the Texas Newsroom, I'm Matt Harrop. One of 3 proposed debates between Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton and State Representative James Talarico has been canceled. The Texas Newsroom's Blaise Gainey says Paxton did not come to terms with Hearst newspapers, NBC, and Telemundo.
The media outlet sponsoring the debate, which would have been in September, set a Wednesday deadline to RSVP, but the day passed without a commitment from Ken Paxton. In response, Talarico released a statement Thursday criticizing his Republican opponent and urging him to debate. Paxton's campaign said the candidate will, but likely just once, with a single media outlet. I'm Blaise Gainey in Austin.
2 other proposed debates are still on the table. Talarico has accepted both invitations. Paxton has not. 5 current and former city officials in the South Texas city of Refugio have been indicted on felony charges following a Texas Rangers investigation. Here's our Rob Boskamp.
The Texas Department of Public Safety confirmed that current Mayor Wanda Dukes, City Secretary Callie Schreckengost, and former City Council members Michael Rocha and Frank Hosey were arrested this week. According to DPS, Dukes and Schreckengost were each indicted on a first-degree felony of misapplication of fiduciary property involving $300,000 or more. The other 3 officials were each indicted on a third-degree felony charge of abuse of official capacity involving between $30,000 and $150,000. All 5 officials have turned themselves in to the county jail. I'm Rob Boskamp in Corpus Christi.
Child advocates are pushing back against proposed changes to the federal Head Start program. The changes would remove significant federal regulations and shift most standards towards state and local regulation. Teresa Granillo is CEO of San Antonio-based Avance. That's a nonprofit that focuses on parent education and early childhood development.
As one of the largest Head Start operators in this state of Texas, I want to be very clear. We do not support the proposed changes to the Head Start performance standards. These standards exist for a reason. They protect quality, they protect children, and they protect the families who depend on Head Start.
Head Start and Early Head Start programs service more than 64,000 children in Texas. And Austin ISD is moving closer to a possible state takeover after 2 middle schools received failing ratings for a 5th consecutive time. Overall, the district received a B grade, but the 2 middle schools put the district in a situation where state intervention could possibly take place. Houston ISD is starting its 4th year of a state takeover because of failing scores at one school. I'm Matt Harrop in the Texas Newsroom.
You're listening to statewide news from public radio stations across Texas. This coverage is only possible because of support from listeners like you. You can help sustain and grow Texas news coverage by donating to your local public radio station today.
It's the Texas Standard. I'm Laura Rice. The 2026 college football season kicks off in a few weeks, and folks across Texas are talking. Along with returning star players, we'll see new faces on the field, new coaches on the sidelines, new conferences, and a whole new playoff format. Several Texas teams are expected to do well, as usual, but there's a ton of excitement around the Longhorns for at least a couple of good reasons. Here to help us preview the upcoming gridiron action with a specific focus on those wearing burnt orange is Danny Davis with the Austin American-Statesman. Danny, welcome back to the Standard.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Earlier this month, in a coach's preseason ranking poll, Texas landed at number 4. What do you make of that?
I think it's about right. Obviously, Texas missed the playoffs last year, so there's a little disappointment here in Austin, but there's a lot of talent on this team, and anytime you have a player as good as Arch Mannion on offense and a player as good as Colin Simmons, as well as some of the other players they brought in this offseason, this team should be competing for a national championship. So you don't want to put them at 1. They have to earn that, but for a top 5 is appropriate.
Yeah, you gotta earn it. You mentioned Arch Manning, and of course, a lot of eyes on him. Is this his last year? Are we here already? The final year of Arch Manning as quarterback of UT?
Well, we'll see. I mean, he still has another year of eligibility after this year, and I think Steve interviewed during the summer kind of teased the possibility of Arch coming back for that 5th year. But if he accomplishes what he wants to accomplish and is slated to go high in the draft, I can't see him coming back for another season. He makes good money here, but the money's even better in the NFL. So I think if he accomplishes what he wants to accomplish, this will be the last year with Arch, which is appropriate. He's been here for 4 years. Time to go on and do the next thing.
But what is it that he wants to do? Is it national championship or bust? Do you think he's going to be satisfied, ending the year at number 4?
I mean, I think Arch would definitely like to win a national championship and maybe contend for some of those awards. He's not going to say that publicly, but I'm sure privately he wouldn't mind going for a Heisman Trophy. But yeah, it's just a championship or bust kind of season. You don't ever want to necessarily say everything is staked to a national championship because weird things happen in the playoffs. But I think if Arch wins a national title and joins Vince and James Street and some of those Longhorn quarterbacks who have won titles here, I think he'd be pretty happy.
Well, there's a lot of excitement around the transfer from Auburn, Cam Coleman. Tell us about him and how he's expected to fit in with Manning and this Texas offense.
Well, anyone who's on social media this past weekend know exactly what Cam Coleman can bring to this offense. He had that crazy one-handed catch that went viral this weekend, but he's obviously a very talented receiver. He was probably one of the top transfer targets in the portal this offseason, and Texas got him. And this Texas team lost some production in its receiving core. They brought back Ryan Wingo, who's very talented, but Cam Coleman, that gives them a huge 1-2 punch. So Arch needs people to throw the football to. Cam Coleman's a very good person to throw the football to, and I think next offseason he'll definitely be a first-round pick. So that's something you definitely want on your offense.
Now, on the downside, Texas is said to have one of the toughest schedules this year. I think it was Ohio State, second game. I mean, do you think that's true? Can you break this down for us?
Yeah, the coaches poll you just alluded to, 7 of the teams that Texas plays this season was in that preseason poll, and that starts week 2. Ohio State, that's obviously one of the tougher non-conference games for both Texas and Ohio State. Ohio State was 1 in the preseason poll, so that's a tough game for them coming to Austin, and Texas obviously having to host them. And then the SEC plays the gauntlet, and Texas found out last year that even the easy games in SEC play aren't necessarily easy, and then you have the ranked teams. So this is going to be a tough schedule from start to finish. Even UTSA or Texas State, those are teams are going to want to come into Texas and spring the upset. So there's no easy games on this Texas schedule.
All right. So for those who haven't been paying close attention, what's coming with this new playoff format, and are you looking forward to it?
I mean, the new playoff format is still in the air. We're still doing 12 teams this year. Now it's just kind of a debate. Big Ten wants to expand it. The SEC is kind of holding firm. We'll see exactly what happens. I don't like 12 teams personally, so I would prefer for it to go backwards. I think a 4 or 8 is a perfect number. I think the more teams you add, that kind of waters down the product. But there's a lot of money at stake, and these coaches and universities want the money. The coaches want the job security. So I'm sure eventually we'll get more teams, but I think 12 teams is more than enough for now.
All right. I've been quizzing you. I know it's still early days, but what else are you going to be watching for this season?
I mean, covering the Texas Longhorns, you just want to see if the Longhorns can live up to that hype. There's going to be some good games coming to DKR, and even if the games that Texas has to go on the road, they're going to LSU for the first time in forever, going to Tennessee for the first time ever. And then you go to A&M, have Oklahoma and Dallas. It's going to be a fun schedule if you're a Texas fan, whether you're watching some games at home or you're one of those fans who likes to travel everywhere. It's going to be a fun year with a lot of cool venues, a lot of cool things to see, and that's kind of what you want to see at this time of year.
Danny Davis covers sports for the Austin American-Statesman. We'll share a link to his latest at texasstandard.org. Danny, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Support for Texas Standard comes from Texas Mutual Insurance Company, a Texas-based workers' compensation provider committed to providing care and support for injured employees. More at texasmutual.com/TexansDeliver. Support for Texas Standard comes from Half Price Books, a Texas-bred new and used bookstore, proudly supporting public media and sustainability by keeping books, music, and other media in circulation. Store locations and more information at hpb.com.
It's the Texas Standard. I'm Laura Rice. During Jace Tunnel's beachcombing surveys along the Texas coast, he's grown used to finding strange things washed ashore. This week's expedition found him surrounded by hundreds of unusual wrinkly seeds that, like a lot of summer travelers, made their way thousands of miles to get to the Gulf.
The beach looked as though someone had scattered hundreds of brains across the sand. These unusual sea beans, known as monkey brain sea beans, immediately caught my attention. Some still had short stems attached, suggesting they had only recently separated from their tree, while others were covered in crusted bryozoans and clusters of gooseneck barnacles. Those hitchhikers told a different story, one of months or even perhaps years drifting across the ocean before finally reaching the Texas coast. Monkey's brain sea beans, also called Donovan's brain or brain fruit, come from the brain fruit tree, a tropical species found from southern Mexico through Central America and into northern South America. The trees often grow around rivers, where ripe fruits eventually fall into the water. As the fruit breaks apart, the seeds are carried downstream to the ocean. Their remarkably hard, waterproof shell allows them to float for long distances on ocean currents, sometimes traveling hundreds or even thousands of miles before washing ashore. Curiosity got the best of me, so I brought one home and carefully cut it open with a saw. Inside was a soft, pale kernel that looked surprisingly like a peanut. The tough outer shell does an incredible job of protecting the seed during its long journey at sea. Although the seed itself is far too hard to eat after its ocean voyage, the fruit surrounding it is edible when fresh and is enjoyed locally in parts of its native range. The durable seeds have also been collected for generations and polished into necklaces, keychains, and other keepsakes by beachcombers around the world. I usually get excited to find just one monkey brain sea bean during a beach survey, so discovering hundreds of them scattered across the shoreline was an unforgettable beachcombing experience.
Wherever Texas meets the tide, you'll find this guy, Jace Tunnel, the Texas Beachcomber. Jace is Director of Community Engagement at the Hart Research Institute at Texas A&M University, Corpus Christi. You can see a photo at texasstandard.org. artist James McGee didn't begin his career in El Paso. The painter, sculptor, poet, video, and filmmaker passed through far west Texas in the late 70s and decided the Chihuahuan Desert was where he belonged. It's where he decided to erect his life's work. 4 stone buildings in the shape of a cross, 70 miles east of El Paso. It's called The Hill, and McGee worked on it for the last 4 decades of his life before his death in 2024 at 79 years old. By that time, only about 200 people had made the trip to see it. But now, the Cornyn Mountain Foundation, a nonprofit that McGee and his family created to oversee the site, is trying to welcome more people. Chi Pham wrote about this in Texas Highways magazine. Chi, welcome to the Texas Standard.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Tell us about the buildings that make up the hill.
The building itself was built entirely without a plan. McGee himself built it all, basically just measuring everything out ad hoc with a string. It sits in this cruciform plan, 4 stone buildings, around 17 feet tall, very large. And of these 4 buildings, made of very rough cut shale rock, they all, at least all 3 of them, have these very large altarpiece-like installations made of wood and metal, organic material, very much of an industrial presence. The 4th building, unfortunately, was not completed at the time of McGee's death, and McGee did stipulate that all construction would cease upon his death. So the hill itself resembles part of the environment. A lot of critics compare it to Stonehenge in the sense that being of such classical proportion, as if it endured history all this time. So yeah, very just monumental sculpture.
Well, I understand this started as like a private enterprise. What was McGee's intention in creating it?
Very often, the hill is described in very solitary terms. And of course, it is one man's labor. But at the same time, McGee has always been someone very deeply interested in the human being and forming intimate connections with an observer. There's so many installations in the hill that require human effort to participate in. For one instance, there is this piece that he constructed from the floor in which a group of people are required to pull on these chains in order for the floor to raise and reveal the artwork beneath, which I think exemplifies McGee's interest in the person, while being, of course, someone who didn't necessarily desire this traditional audience as a museum setting would necessitate. Whenever he would invite people to embark on this pilgrimage, groups were kept very small, around 6 individuals or so. But I do think these visits and their increasing frequency are all a part of his larger vision to engage a public, still intimate, but still very deeply penetrating.
Well, I understand going out there, isn't so easy for everyone, depending on where you live in Texas, and it also costs $250 per person. What does the visit entail? You mentioned it's interactive in some ways.
Each visit takes place starting in downtown El Paso, and what the fee covers is mostly the upkeep and the labor behind the hill. McGee constructed these very large portals and gates that must be opened before any visit can take place, which does require a very sizable but not too pronounced crew. And it's about an hour-and-a-half drive to Cornyn. On the trip, visitors will see, of course, sights of the snow-capped mountains of the Chihuahuan Desert and of the Cornyn Mountains. And through there, the hill almost appears as a vision emerging naturally from the desert. It's a bit almost indiscernible until you really approach it. The foundation is actively seeking to make the costs less steep, but all of the $250 fee is directly contributing to the hill's maintenance and to the hill's upkeep.
So even though McGee is gone, I understand that visitors also get to hear his voice if they visit.
Yeah, so His titles that he composed for each installation on the hill were essentially very long prose poems. It sort of complicates being able to formally consider the hill just a sculpture. It was a fundamental aspect of the hill and something that I think exemplifies that the hill was always supposed to be an intimate experience. He believed in the fragility of each word and each utterance, and he saw the hill as perhaps his most important utterance that he would make in his lifetime.
Chi Pham wrote The Doors Open on the Hill of James McGee, a recent article in Texas Highways magazine. We'll link to it at texasstandard.org. Chi, thank you again for joining us on the Texas Standard.
Thank you so much.
Support for Texas Standard comes from H-E-B and the My H-E-B app, which is available for download, and shopping fresh departments like seafood, produce, bakery, and deli, and scheduling curbside pickup or home delivery. More at heb.com.
I'm Sean Petrie. I'm with the Typewriter Rodeo. In the Typewriter Rodeo, we make up poems on the spot on whatever topic people want. Turning 60 for listener Aaron. Sell the house. No, wait. First, stop in front of that mirror and say, 60? Heck yeah. And smile. Now do it. Sell the house. Say a long thanks for all it's given. Then skip away. Heck yes, you can skip at 60. Stop again. Revel in that. And now keep going. Where? Wherever the heck you want. This is the new time of no plans, of the freedom of renting, of sleeping in or getting up before the sun, of hugging your past like a close friend, of tickling the present to see what gets a rise, and then following that. Because this is the new chapter, skipping into the bright unknown. 60? Oh, heck yeah. For the Texas Standard, I'm Sean Petrie with the Typewriter Rodeo.
You can catch the Typewriter Rodeo every Friday here on The Standard and on our Instagram page. Got a suggestion for a custom poem? Send it over and you might just hear it on the radio. Now it's time for the week that was in Texas politics. Jasper Scherer is politics editor for the Texas Tribune. Jasper, welcome back.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This week, Texas was allowed to continue its THC ban after a federal judge in Galveston denied an emergency motion for a temporary restraining order from the hemp industry. So what does this mean for hemp retailers in Texas?
First of all, it's important to note that, this is not the final ruling on this. This just means that the ban can stay in effect while the lawsuit goes forward. But basically, the real life impact for now is that Texas's ban on pretty much all types of hemp-derived products, except for, low dose Delta-9 THC, all of that can remain banned until this lawsuit is decided. So it's been kind of a roller coaster ride for the hemp industry, but for now, other than these very low dose products, the ban can stay in effect.
I'll just read the Tribune headline for this next one. As Big Bend wall outcry builds, Paxton does not say whether construction should proceed. Tell us about the response from Ken Paxton's camp here.
Yeah, this is a really interesting political issue for Paxton and his Senate race, just because the bipartisan nature of the outcry has been so unique in our polarized time. And you've got John Cornyn and other Republicans coming out and saying basically, this, in Cornyn's case, the construction on infrastructure along the Big Bend border should be paused until the Trump administration at least consults with local officials. So we asked Paxton where he stands on all this, because he's remained pretty tight-lipped. And he said that, His campaign said that he's committed to strong border security, but also wants to consider the unique characteristics of different stretches of the border, including areas like Big Bend. So not really saying where he stands. And we just wanted to point out that, we're still kind of waiting for him to weigh in on this, I think pretty salient issue on the campaign trail.
So, Jasper, you mentioned Cornyn has expressed some concern about this border wall. Paxton not said anything. How about Paxton's Senate opponent, James Talarico?
Yeah, this was an opportunity, I think, for Talarico to come out and in this case, he applauded Cornyn's call for local input and restated his opposition to the Big Bend wall and sort of framing it as part of his anti-corruption argument, talking about how it's going to be a hotbed of no-bid contracts for federal contractors. So he's trying to seize on this issue and make Paxton pay for not talking about it.
Jasper Scherer is politics editor for the Texas Tribune. Jasper, thank you so much.
Thank you.
What are the unwritten rules of Texas? I'm Wells Dunbar with the Texas Standard, and this week we asked about the things no one ever formally teaches you about living here, but somehow you're expected to know. For many Texans, it starts on the road.
I built a house out in the Texas Hill Country, a little 2-lane country road, 5 cattle guards.
That's Edward Balin, who moved to Texas in the 1970s, and out on that road, he quickly picked up on one custom.
One thing I noticed shortly after moving out there was people coming the other way would wave at you. And this was a road that really didn't go anywhere. So I guess they figured everybody on that road must have been a neighbor.
That little wave came up in plenty of forms. Barbara McCullough offered another rule of the road. If you're on a 2-lane highway holding up traffic, pull onto the shoulder and let folks pass. In her words, drive Texas friendly. But some of the rules are less about driving and more about slowing down.
Not sure about the rest of the state, but one thing I noticed is that some of my friends who come in from out of state, foreigners as I call them, they're not used to our hospitality. Whether you go to H-E-B or on the highway on Mopac, people are nice. Go ahead of me. People are waving at you. And the cashier is actually talking, how's your day been?
Ahmed Garcia has been in Austin since 1971. His advice to newcomers, don't be in such a hurry.
And I've had some of my acquaintances from out of state, foreigners. It's like, man, you guys just rush it along. No, dude. Talk to the cashier and buy your groceries.
Online, Sherry Foreman added a few more suggestions. Expect a firm handshake, tip your servers well, and take a no trespassing sign seriously. And then, naturally, someone brought up chili. David Vaughn Devine says whether or not you put beans or anything else in a bowl of chili is between you and your maker. David's larger rule, Texans value independence, so eat what you want and let everybody else do the same. Maybe that's the unwritten rule undergirding all the others. Be neighborly, give people a little room, and mind your own chili. I'm Wells Dunbar, and this is the Talk of Texas.
I am all about the wave on Texas roads. It glosses over many a sin. That's it for us this Friday on the Texas Standard, but you can keep up with the news anytime at texasstandard.org and on our social media pages. I'll be posting a little extra about former NBA coach Mike D'Antonio's thoughts on the San Antonio Spurs here in a bit. Try saying that. D'Antoni's spot on San Antonio. Goodness, that's a mouthful. Who writes this stuff? Oh, that's me. Thank you so much for joining us this Friday here on The Standard. We'll see you back here on Monday, and we're going to be digging into Texas education ratings. That's coming up. See you then.
Philanthropic support for Texas Standard comes from Casey and Scott O'Hare, the Winkler Family Foundation, Lynn Dobson and Greg Woldridge, Adrian Killam, and the George Huntington family. Would your company or organization like to be a sponsor as well? Contact your local station for opportunities within your community. For statewide sponsorships, visit TexasPublicMediaNetwork.com.